What's up, Marvel fans? I'm Steven from the Hills Maniacs, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I believe that Marvel's What If series will connect to the MCU. So, in episode 8 of the series, we got a look at what might have happened if Ultron had defeated the Avengers in Age of Ultron and succeeded in fusing himself with Vision's body like he originally planned to. We see him not only destroy the Avengers in this universe that's in this episode, but also destroy Thanos pretty easily, I might add, and acquire the remaining 5 Infinity Stones, which leads to him traveling through the entire universe as he tries to basically purge everyone from existence, which is what he wanted to do in Age of Ultron. He said the Avengers have to be destroyed, or humanity has to be destroyed in order for this to work. Like, it has to only be Ultron existing. That's when he learns that there are other universes beyond his own after, achieving the ability to hear the Watcher and even see the Watcher and discover his existence, which is something that isn't normally supposed to happen, and only one other person has done so far in this series, which was Doctor Strange back in episode 4, when he gained all this power and knowledge and everything else. He was able to hear the Watcher speaking and even knew about the Watcher's existence. So this is something that's not supposed to happen. So the fact that Ultron is doing it is a little bit creepier. This leads to actually a battle between Ultron and the Watcher, which leaves the Watcher in a state of desperation as he learns he can't defeat Ultron on his own and has to seek out some of the other characters, including Doctor Strange Supreme from episode 4. And we've seen in trailers and everything, he's going to recruit people from the different universes we've seen, like Captain Carter or Black Widow from this episode, and T'Challa, Star-Lord, things like that we've seen in the What If series so far. That it's going to be like his sort of Avengers team to take down Ultron. A lot of people are theorizing that this will lead to the Watcher and his team having to split the multiverse into tiny pieces in order to make it harder for Ultron to navigate his way through the multiverse, rather than trying to kill Ultron, because that's probably going to be hard to do. He has that vibranium armor, and now he has the Infinity Stones and everything else. So they're going to kind of have to trap him in a sort of a state where he can't navigate his way through the multiverse and can't kill anybody else because he can't find his way through. So it's going to make it difficult for him, similar to what Doctor Strange did with Dormammu. Trapping him in the time loop until he gave up and everything else. So here's where my theory comes in. My theory takes that a step further. If you remember back to the final episode of the Loki series, Loki and Sylvie wind up running into He Who Remains, who is basically Kang the Conqueror, but a nice version of Kang the Conqueror. Who gives them this huge monologue about how he came to be and how there was a multiversal war that occurred and how the TVA was created and so on. At one point during this monologue, however, Kang stops talking and kind of looks around aimlessly, like he's not sure of what's going on, before he states, "We've just crossed the threshold." Now at the time, that didn't maybe really mean anything to us. We didn't know what it meant, what Kang meant by that, we've crossed the threshold now, because then he goes on to say that he doesn't know, he knew everything up to a certain point, and then there's a certain point in time where now he doesn't know what's going to happen anymore. So that kind of gave Loki and Sylvie the free will and the choice on how to proceed further, should they kill him or not. And when it shows us a look at outside his window of his citadel, we can see that the sacred timeline is starting to already branch off into multiple different strands, meaning that the multiverse has officially been opened. I think this happens because of the battle with Ultron that we will see in the final episode of What If. A lot of people are predicting that the events of Loki led to now there being multiple realities in the What If series that we are looking at, but I think it's the opposite of that. I think this series, just based on what the final episode will be in the battle with Ultron, and if they do have to break the multiverse in order to keep Ultron at bay, this is how it will affect the rest of the MCU, because this will lead to the threshold that Kang mentions, and then the timeline being broken and everything else. Sylvie killing, he who remains now destroys the TVA, basically. So now there's nobody to keep any of this in check, which is why the multiverse now becomes this huge thing. There's going to be a multiversal war. We're going to see all this play out in all these future movies and everything else. This could also lead to the door being open for some new villains or creatures to show up in the MCU, such as the one we saw from Shang-Chi that was calling out to his father in the movie, using the voice of his dead wife, calling out to him like, oh, she's trapped here, I need to go save her, when it would really just release this creature. Or even whatever was calling to Wanda under the guise of her children crying out to her at the end of WandaVision. So these creatures come from the multiverse, and that's all going to stem from this whole thing in What If, this final battle with Ultron and everything else, and breaking or shattering the multiverse into thousands of pieces and different, even smaller universes, I guess, to trap Ultron. This is where the multiverse will become a reality and plunge the MCU into a new multiversal war. And it all starts from the ending of the What If series and will spread into upcoming films like we've seen so far, such as Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where I don't think it's ever going to actually be something that you can fix. I don't think the multiverse, is fixable, but I think what the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie is going to be is him having to follow Wanda through the multiverse to try and save her, maybe. Because he realizes after what happens in Spider-Man No Way Home, we don't understand the multiverse, and maybe he realizes Wanda is opening the door for all these other creatures to come out now by going through the multiverse. And the only reason the multiverse is open is because of this What If series. There's also been a theory going around that Ultron might become Galactus after this, especially after seeing him devour a universe during his battle with the Watcher in this episode. Like, he was huge, and he just takes a big old sandwich bite down on one of the universes, which kind of sends the Watcher flying. And it did look reminiscent of what Galactus actually does. And he even kind of looked like Galactus, sort of like the way his helmet looked in this particular scene and everything else. I feel like maybe this could be setting up Ultron to become Galactus as he tries to navigate his way through the multiverse and consume every new reality that it causes until he finds his way, to the main MCU timeline in some future Avengers movie. Like, this could all be because he was trapped in the, trying to find his way around all these realities and everything because of the Watcher and his group that he forms. And this is Galactus or Ultron's way of getting revenge, is just to devour every universe. That's what he does, or at least what Galactus does. He is known for eating all these universes and eating worlds and everything else. I feel like that could become a big threat, and it's going to take him a while to do this, which is why it will take a long time before we see Galactus in the main MCU. And I feel like this would be an interesting way to circle back to the What If series while keeping Galactus as also a new threat at the same time. Because everybody will recognize Galactus as this huge threat. Like, oh, Galactus is here, it's been forever, whatever, and then you'll start to realize, oh, okay, so this is how Galactus got started, was all the way back in this What If series. I think that would be an interesting way to set him up as an even further down the road villain than what Kang is being set up as. Galactus might actually be that big threat, and it all starts because Ultron defeated the Avengers in some alternate timeline, which again comes back to this What If series. And I feel like that would be a cool way to connect the What If series to the main MCU timeline, and it really makes you actually need to watch this series in order to see what's going on. But let me know what you guys think of this theory down in the comments section, and be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Marvel-related content just like this. Thank you for watching this video, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.
Subscribe!